It's not that I'm ugly. People don't turn around and gag when they see me. The problem is that they don't smile either. And if there's one thing every woman learns far too young is that everything is about looks. Only, it isn't. I tried clubbing, house parties, online dating, hell, even book clubs. We exchanged glances, introductions, nice words, but no matter what I tried, it never went further than that. Men always seemed to run away from me. I thought it was my looks. Makeup, push-up, perfect pants, and a shirt or dress with cleavage so deep I thought my nipples might jump out, and yet nothing. I was online searching for operations to fix all the flaws in my face and body. There was an ad on the top of one of these websites blinking fast in red and orange with large black text. Be attractive, no operations, no effort, guaranteed effect. I usually avoid clicking on ads, particularly those that promise too much. But that one I couldn't resist. The website looked old, like one you would see in the 90s. There was a short text advertising the product, a special perfume, and then a try it for free button. 2 days later, a Saturday morning, the mail arrived. I walked up the long driveway, one of the pleasures of living outside the city, and at the same time a bother because it stopped me from meeting a few single neighbors. There was just one letter, slightly thicker in the middle. It was a small green packet that looked somewhat similar to the ketchup packs fast food places give with their fries. I tried to rip it open, but the plastic was stiff. I pulled harder, and suddenly the whole thing ripped open and splurted all over me. I had never been more disappointed. I was expecting flowers or fruits, or maybe even musk. I would have even accepted chamomile or cinnamon. Instead, the perfume smelled like nothing. In the morning, I didn't leave the house, but around noon I went to buy groceries for the day. There was a couple walking in front of me. One of those women with high heels and a tight shirt next to her man with fine leather shoes, jeans, and a shirt. He was holding her tightly, and I was already thinking how I could possibly pass, when he just stopped. He just stopped, turned around, and stared at me. His girl was shouting at him, but this man, with his mouth wide open, stared at me. I tried to walk past them, but his eyes followed me, and while she was shouting at him and then at me, he finally put his hand in his pocket, pulled out a business card, and ran the few steps after me. "Call me," he said, "anytime, or stay right here." The woman was furious, and I quickly left while she started hitting his arm. He didn't even look at her. His eyes followed me until I was around the corner, and even then I could still hear the woman shouting at him to stop. Timothy Lang. That's what the business card said. I had never had a man so obsessed about me. I let his name melt on my tongue while I made my way to the supermarket. The other men didn't react as extremely as him, but they did react. I was in the supermarket for less than 30 minutes, but I left with 5 business cards, 3 numbers in my phone, and 2 dinner dates. I called one of the numbers in the evening. He confidently said, "This is Jack." But when I said who I was, he seemed to melt away. We arranged a date for the next week, and just before I hung up, he was suddenly begging. "Hey," he said, "please, please, please really come." Of course," I said. "Oh, wow," Jack said. "Thank you." I think he wanted to say more, but I ended the call, threw the phone on the sofa, and 4 minutes later I had paid $140 for a 200-millimeter bottle of perfume. "Our perfume is special," said the website. "Something you get nowhere else. It's not any kind of flavor. It's the flavor of love, the secret of beauty, and the weapon that brings even the greatest men to their knees. Pure pheromones." When the bottle arrived, I was, of course, more careful. I rubbed one small drop on my wrists and a second around my neck. Jack was the first one I met. He was dressed in a suit that must have cost a fortune. He bought flowers, even his hair was freshly cut. I slowly walked toward the table, and first, when I entered the restaurant, he seemed to be confused, even disappointed. But once I was only a few steps away, his frown turned into a grin. "My God, you look stunning." At first, he seemed a bit needy, but he was the perfect gentleman and just knew how to make me laugh. He smiled and made me feel more beautiful and wanted than I had ever felt. It was only during dessert, when he placed his left hand on my right, that I noticed a thin line of slightly whiter skin on his ring finger. "Are you married?" He looked at me and smiled. "Yes," he said, "but I'll divorce her for you." I never saw Jack again, but I did meet other men, and he kept calling me for more than a week. If you had asked me a month earlier what I would do if a great guy suddenly showed interest in me, I would have blushed and told you that wouldn't happen. Afterwards, I would have said that I would hold on to him and do everything to keep him in my life. But with that perfume, the heavy black bottle with K23 printed on the front, everything was different. I didn't want to find someone. I wanted to be desired. I wanted to be wanted. I wanted to be stared at and be seen dating 1 or 2 or 3 guys at a time. 2 months. I nearly had dates every night. Sometimes when I felt a little excited, I used more than just 1 or 2 drops, 5 or 10 instead. I enjoyed watching them, the mindless things I made them do, the hours I made them wait. Everything for the thrill of being desired and to test more and more how far they would go to conquer me. I made them buy food and clothes and trips. I went to quit my job, but my boss, with desire in his big eyes, begged me to stay and gave me 6 months paid leave instead. Every day, I stayed out into the early mornings and enjoyed the ecstasy of a new man. Rarely I was home, and if ever, those were loud, wild nights. There was a pink envelope in the mail. Not the first and not the last, but it slipped from my hand and I had to step on the grass to pick it up. That time, for the first time in weeks, I looked at my flowers. The ones I had planted as the only real pleasure in my life. They were flat on the ground, destroyed and ripped apart. The grass, too, in long rings that led around my house, it was just mud. That night, for the first time in weeks, I didn't go out. I didn't call anyone. I didn't bring a man home. That night, for the first time, I heard the moans.